Mike Evans, welcome.
Delighted to be with you.
You've written a new book. Tell us about it.
Jimmy Carter, The Liberal Left and World Chaos is fundamentally a book on how Carter developed a belief system that tolerance would resolve the problems in the Middle East.
And in your view, that view was misguided.
Well, it created 9/11. It destabilized the Middle East. It caused the overthrow of the Shah of Iran. It caused the invasion of Afghanistan by the Russians and the funding of the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, which became known as Al-Qaeda.
On the other hand, Jimmy Carter was responsible for the peace deal between Israel and Egypt. He did win a Nobel Peace Prize.
Well, really not. He was about as responsible as Arafat was responsible for the peace deal. Menachem Begin did the deal with the assistance of several other players. Carter took the credit for it and, of course, got the prize.
You are also suggesting that current U.S. President Barack Obama is following in Carter's footsteps.
Except on steroids. He sees the world exactly the same as Carter, except he's much cleverer than Carter.
Isn't it a little too early to pass judgment on the new president?
Oh, not quite not. When you've got people demonstrating in the streets and dying for freedom and democracy, and you refuse to stand up for them and speak up for them and hold a regime accountable, you're basically sending a signal that you want to work with that regime.
You think the U.S. should be doing much more in terms of supporting the opposition in Iran right now?
Well, indeed, it's the center of gravity of world terror in Iran. When they're threatening to wipe the state of Israel off the map, and you're basically saying, I can reason with these people. They're experts on incitement. They've been doing it for 30 years, and they do have a lot of subcontractors like Hezbollah and Hamas. You can't talk with terrorists.
But perhaps President Obama realizes that too heavy an involvement by the U.S. at this time would only turn possible supporters of the opposition against them. Isn't that a possibility?
I don't think so, because the opposition doesn't have a voice. Their voice is ever in prison. They kill them and beat them to death. It's impossible for the opposition to speak up. Someone has to do it for them. Why are all their signs that we're seeing in English? They're talking to America. They're crying out to America the same way they did, by the way, in the late 70s when Carter double-crossed them. Obama's making a tragic mistake. He's basically telling a terror regime that's run by a theocracy and a thugocracy that they can be worked with. We can work with you. And he's ignoring the very people that can bring hope for the future of Iran.
What will it take for the U.S. to get involved in your mind?
I fear that it's going to probably take another terror attack. I hope not. I pray that it won't take that. But right now we're going down a slippery slope where we're redefining the terms of the debate. Israel now becomes the enemy. Israel becomes the problem. I heard him say in Cairo that the two biggest problems in the Middle East was Al-Qaeda and Israel. This is insane. It's completely absurd. Israel never was the problem in the Middle East. It actually was the solution. Harel told me in 1979, September.
The former director of the Mossad.
Yes, he told me that if America keeps developing a tolerance for terror, they will strike New York City and the tallest building. That was September 23rd, 1980.
Interesting, very interesting. Well, best of luck with your book, and hope to have you back on IBA News.
Thank you.
Jimmy Carter, The Liberal Left and World Chaos, is the new expose by #1 New York Times bestselling author Dr. Mike Evans, who documents the facts that President Jimmy Carter provided checks of $150 million to Khomeini, who plotted to kill the Shah of Iran and overthrow his nation, provided $500 million to the Muslim Brotherhood freedom fighters, who became the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, wire transferred $7.9 billion to buy back the hostages in January of 1981. Evans, an award-winning Middle East journalist, exposes the lies of the liberal left. On Inauguration Day 2009, Jimmy Carter released his plan for peace in the Holy Land to persuade President Obama to weaken Israel, to support terror regimes that have murdered scores of Americans and Israelis, and to push to divide Jerusalem, establishing another Islamic capital. Go to the website to order or find the schedule for the national TV special. Call now to order the 590-page hardback filled with the shocking revelation. Jimmy Carter, The Liberal Left and World Chaos.